And I said, you got to check this out. There's some like polygon tabletop exercise at the World Economic Forum that sounds very similar to Event 201. And then I kept thinking, they're going to hit our grid. They're going to hit our grid. And I believe they just did.
Hey friends, that was the one and only Mel K. Boy, is she an interesting and knowledgeable woman. This is one of the longest interviews I've ever done for my channel. We went over 2 hours, so I'm going to break this into a part 1 and a part 2. So I think you'll enjoy this interview very much. Before we begin, just a quick word about this interview's sponsor. A family of 4 was injured after an electric heater started a New Year's Day fire in their home, and 2 children suffered smoke inhalation and 2 adults had minor injuries from the fire. It was determined that the fire was caused by a space heater. That's why I highly recommend the Cold Killer. The Cold Killer is a portable space heater with built-in safety features that prevent it from causing fires unlike traditional space heaters. These safety add-ons include the ability to shut itself down when it's tipped over and the ability to reduce its temperature if it's too hot. Get the Cold Killer for 50% off by going to thecoldkiller.com. That's thecoldkiller.com, or click the link below this video. Hey friends, welcome back. Thank you so very, very much for tuning in. It's Sean from SGTReport.tv and SGTReport.com here. I'm praying to God to give me the words I need to couch this correctly because I'm very excited about this interview. I have on Mel K. Many of you know her from the interwebs. She is currently undergoing a 14-day suspension from YouTube. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about Zionism. We're going to talk about the powers that be that want to enslave humanity. They've done a pretty good job of it over the generations. Are they losing the battle but winning the war? I don't know. We're going to talk about all of it right now. Mel K, how are you?
I'm great. I'm so excited to be here. I've been following you since the very beginning, and if there's a truth teller out there, you're one of them. So thank God for you.
Well, you make me blush. Thank you so much. There's so many great people out there, and I would note that so many people have been booted off of YouTube. Those of us that had a big presence built over a decade, we're gone now. And thankfully, the audience is finding us, for the most part, on BitChute, Rumble, Odyssey, these other platforms. But it's very, very, very frustrating when YouTube acts like a digital Antifa and just burns down your storefront without cause or reason, without recourse. Both my channels were in good standing. What's your situation? You're on a 14-day suspension right now from YouTube?
Yeah, I didn't, because I would go on other shows and talk to people about my research. I've been looking into the UN and all this stuff for years, and also the Epstein case. I had connections to that, so I started talking about it. And I set up a YouTube channel. I wasn't really doing my own videos, and then one day I looked and I had, like not a lot, but 6,000 subscribers. I wasn't even putting up videos, so I was like, oh, I'll try this. So about couple months ago, I started posting on YouTube, and then I guess they got wind of me. And then I got, after the election, I went through Navarro's report, which is pretty thorough and shows as much evidence as anyone should need, because any cheating in the election is enough. But and I talked about that, and I got a strike. They took me down for a week. While I was down for a week, about 5 other people started fake channels with my name, my picture. My only channel is the Mel K Show, and right now I'm on suspension. But anyway, 5 other people started channels pretending to be me, the Mel K Show official, whatever, Charlie Ward and Mel K, all fake. They're all making money. I'm demonetized because I got my 2nd strike. And then on top of that, I've reported it, that they're impersonating me. Nothing. And I saw one of the channels has like 45,000 subscribers in 2 weeks, and I'm sitting there stuck. But yeah, and they don't care. They're not doing anything. And the craziest part is the 2 episodes that I got taken down for, they have up. They didn't get taken down.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I think Susan Wojcicki and the team at YouTube allow this on purpose, because not only can they burn down your business or your storefront, they can give it to somebody else, right? I went through the same thing. I was a YouTube partner for a decade. They took that away, right? And then, yeah, they take that away, and then they take your whole channel away without cause or recourse. And in the case of X22 Report, same thing happening to you is happening to him. All these fraudulent channels now re-upload his content from his podcast, put a slate on it that looks like it's from him. Some of them are monetized, and YouTube doesn't care. Think of that double standard. They won't let you on YouTube have free speech, but they will let people steal your free speech and then profit from it on YouTube.
Right. And that's why I know that they're completely aware of it, because it's only my channel that gets the strikes. Because it's the same, I'm sure it happened with Dave too, is that that they know that it's actually my channel because I'm the only one that gets knocked off. These people have up the videos that I got kicked off for.
Yeah.
It's so disgusting. The worst part is that they got in the way of people making a living. I know you and a bunch of other guys and gals worked so hard, had like 250, 500,000, a million like subscribers and all. And then one day it was just, you were all purged and you have you were making a living. And that's the worst part to me, especially during the pandemic. They did their big purge during the pandemic. What kind of evil, what kind of horrible people are these? And, it's funny, the more research I do also about the pandemic and about the CDC and COVID and everything, so many people got taken down for spreading the truth. And that's the saddest part. It's become like telling the truth has become a crime in the social media world. It's really, really sad to watch.
Yeah, well, in a time of universal deceit, telling the truth is a revolutionary act, and we don't take that lightly. It's very clear at this point.
Right.
There are penalties for telling the truth, and you're right, on October 15th, the great YouTube purge got rid of me, X22 Report, Red Pill 78, many of us, dozens of channels purged without warning or without cause. Now, these people are super despicable, and as you know, follow the bloodlines. Susan Wojcicki's sister, Ann Wojcicki, at 23andMe, was once married to Sergey Brin, one of the, we're told, founders, not DARPA, one of the founders of Google.
Exactly.
So yeah, follow the bloodlines. It's real easy to see what's going on here.
Oh yeah. No, it's the whole thing. They're all in on it. They're all in on it. That's the crazy part. You see, Project Veritas found yesterday.
Zuckerberg.
Yeah.
I have that down here to talk to you about. He warns his peeps, but he doesn't want the world to know about the COVID vaccine.
Yeah, and then Bill Gates' demonic daughter, I'm sorry to say that, I don't know her, but she comes out laughing about it. Like, oh, they didn't implant my dad's genius brain in my head. And, if this mRNA is going to make my cells work better, that should be a good thing. And I'm thinking, well, we should have had informed consent that that's really what it is. And anyone that tried to tell people got booted off of social media, off of everywhere. And it's true. And they're not providing informed consent for these Moderna and Pfizer, but you can go to their websites and it clearly says it's not a vaccine, it's an operating system. And then if you say it on one of these, on YouTube or Twitter or Facebook, you're done. It's completely upside down. It's really a crime against humanity as far as I'm concerned at this point. The media, big tech, they're complicit. And I think one of the biggest crimes against humanity that we will ever, God willing, see again, since the Holocaust at least, this has been really just one hell of a year of really psychological, emotional, mental, and just such fraud.
Informed consent, the COVID vaccine. Let's get to that later in the conversation. I definitely want to talk to you about the Pfizer mRNA vaccine, Moderna, AstraZeneca. I hear Johnson & Johnson is working on one. It is, I think you're right, a crime against humanity, and I definitely want to talk about that. It's on my list. But let's talk about, first, New York City. You live in New York City under two of the most despicable people's rule in the history of our country, Cuomo as governor and de Blasio as that despicable mayor. And they're both so evil, they're now infighting with each other. These Democrats can't get on the same page. I guess the old saying is true, there's no honor among thieves.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, I've been talking about it for a really long time, that I saw from the very beginning what Cuomo was doing here, in my opinion. Because right when the COVID started with the 15 days to the spread, he came right out of the gate with Bill Gates and Eric Schmidt. Bill Gates, who destroyed our education system with Common Core, dumbing down our kids, making them just data processors, basically. And then he brings out Eric Schmidt and Bill Gates and says, we're going to reimagine New York. And I'm thinking, because of a virus? What are they doing? What are they talking about? Yeah. And then every day after that, and then I looked into, and it turns out if you put that together with some stuff that was on the Hunter Biden laptop that doesn't seem to exist in reality, even though it does, and we should have known everything on it before the election, but he met Cuomo with the CCP and Hunter Biden, and he met with Bill Gates and Eric Schmidt about smart city technology. They had a big Democratic governors event, which with all the suspects with the nursing homes that all went to this smart technology, smart city, some big symposium paid for, and he was one of the main people there. And within 6 months, he literally gutted New York City. There are no cops, first of all. It's rare that you'd see a cop. Worse than that, probably 70% of the small restaurants and small businesses are closed. It's a mess. You know, de Blasio and his wife, they stole all the money, the $850 million Thrive New York that was supposed to be for mentally ill and homeless. Not 1 cent went to them, and there were no repercussions. And then COVID comes. Homelessness is off the charts. Suicide in New York City, they're not reporting it. I'm sure they're recording it as COVID, is off the I mean, these are serious things that are happening and being ignored. And then we all knew that Cuomo was lying about the hospitals and the death tolls, because we had enough people that we knew that worked at hospitals. And we're saying that they're putting everything down as COVID. And then you find out that they were making 20 grand more per COVID death. And it just turned into, I have very little faith that anything's going to happen to Cuomo, but I saw what he was doing, and I see what he's doing to New York. You know, they also, right after the COVID, while we were locked down and the riots and everything that they planned just to kick us all in the head while we were locked down, he put these sensors all over underneath him and de Blasio, but really it's Cuomo, underneath Times Square and all over to track us. And nobody was saying anything. And I was just like, he's doing a smart city.
Oh, I hadn't heard about the sensors. Tell us a little bit more about that, because when this guy does his daily or weekly updates, I mean, I see them on, I guess, Fox News and some others. I don't watch them. I don't live in New York City, but he literally sounds to me like a mafia don.
No, of course. Yes, he is. But he is. And he's a real, you know, those nursing homes that he put everyone into, the people who own them are one of his biggest donors. So, and then, you know, that it was like $19,000 a death in Medicaid, Medicare for regular death, but $39,000 per death being paid out for a COVID death. And that's when we really started seeing that. But what happened was over the last, since everything's been shut down, there's been a lot of activity of what people were telling me is they basically closed Times Square, and all of Broadway's closed. Everything's closed. It's like a ghost town. And they were putting sensors on the ground to monitor 6 feet distance, you know, to monitor how close people were under the guise of COVID, like everything else. And then they were paving it over. And it's only people that work for this city or a couple really brave reporters from the Post that have really reported on it. And then, you know, we've seen a lot of surveillance, more and more surveillance cameras going up. They have these kiosks on every corner. But I'm being told that these kiosks, they're actually filming you, like that they all have film. They're all filming at all times. And the scary part is, who's that going to? Because we don't have any cops. So, I mean, it's not going to the NYPD. So I don't know who's getting all that data and who's watching every move we make. But right now, New York City is under surveillance. I'm telling you, and it's really, I see it every day getting worse.
All right, I'm going to try to stay in the moment here because there's so many big topics I have in my notes to talk to you about. I mean, giant topics. You know, the Act of 1871, who are the pay-sewers versus the Rothschilds, Zionism, the collapse of our economic system, can we save the republic? But just for a bit longer, let's stay on New York and New Yorkers. As we approach what was called a tiptoe into totalitarianism, it's now a dive into the deep end.
Exactly.
In your view, has the revolutionary spirit out of Americans, has that been engineered out of people? Why are New Yorkers standing for this?
I have no, yeah, that's been a bit real shock and a disappointment. You know, there's something about, you know, New York's a lot of run by a lot of elitist intellectual types, the kind that, you know, are on foundations and think tanks and all of this. And it's just to the core, it's very corrupt. And a lot of these people have investments in this and that. And I think so many people felt that they had to play along. What I'm getting in New York now, just in the last week, since people are starting to realize something's very wrong, that right after the election, now all the COVID stuff is reversing and people don't understand. that weren't awake that, yeah, maybe it wasn't about a virus. Maybe it was about an election. But I think people are starting to question it. But before that, no, some of the smartest people you would think with like the PhDs from Harvard or whatever, they're walking around with 2 masks and a shield. And the whole thing is, it doesn't make any sense. Also, people here are still very loyal to the New York Times, CNN. I don't know why, other than, and I have a real issue with the Jewish community here especially in New York, because they've been very supportive of Cuomo and Biden and all of this. And I just look at them and I shake my head. Do you have no idea what the real goals are? And, also I live right by the UN. So there's a lot of people in my area that are involved. They're in on it. And that's another thing. And there's also a big sense of bullying and shame. And if you don't wear a mask, people are going to start yelling at you. And I think people just don't want to be bothered. So, the few people that keep their faith and keep walking and don't wear a mask and say, I don't have to, healthy people shouldn't be penalized when walking outside because other people are scared or getting the wrong information. But it's only in the last week and a half I've seen people be like, especially because I talk about it, but lean over when I'm talking and be like, I think that too. But they're like scared to say it, like it's Germany, 1935.
Yeah. Just a quick thanks to Jean-Claude over at Beyond Mystic. He's the one that helped get us together. I was watching your interview with him and Miriam. Just a fantastic conversation with the three of you. And I'm so delighted that you were willing to come on because, in my view, you're one of the best newcomer truth tellers, newcomer to me. I just discovered your work over the past few weeks, maybe the past month or so. I know you trend a lot on BitChute. Again, that's a great thing because at least we have an alternative to YouTube. I want to ask you about something you said. They're in on it. As we watch the collapse of our nation and the destruction, the deliberate destruction of our republic, they stole the election. They say we can't talk about that, and then Time Magazine brags about it.
Right.
Who's in on it and why? Do they not care about this? I mean, are they that easy to buy? Are they that easy to sell out? Because what do we have to give our children if we lose this country? We've got nothing.
Well, we can't lose this country. I had this conversation this morning with somebody. Here's my thinking in a nutshell. At Operation Paperclip, when I'm sure your viewers know, but not everyone does, after the Holocaust and the Nazis were brought to justice, George H.W. Bush's father and a bunch of American politicians brought to America under the dark cloud the best Nazi scientists and politicians, and many of the worst. And I believe that they came here and they rebranded as the UN. And the UN is, again, people should do their own research, because if you dig into the UN, you're going to realize everything the UN puts out there, Agenda 21, Agenda 30, globalism, US aid, all this stuff, UNICEF, you name it, you can reverse it. And if you look into what they've been doing, it's the opposite. It's always the opposite. And that can go to the foundation, the spiritual, moral foundation of the UN is the Lucis Trust, which is the Lucifer Trust, which is still, and they have this welcome ambassadors, which are Bill Gates and Ted Turner and Soros and all of this involved in this. And it's based on Luciferian Satanism and a one world government. And the object of the UN and the globalists, who also include Barack Obama and John Kerry and Biden, whoever that is now, but the CFR, the Bilderberg, Trilateral Commission, all of them, they all want a one world government because they will be in it, and that's what I always talk about. There's 3,000 probably people, and they want complete control over 7 billion people's lives. They want, they believe in a one world government. They believe that there should be no God. The UN, if you look at it, all their flowery language, they're telling you that's the goal. The goal is one religion, one government, one military, and one bank. And they have it all planned out. They're this close. They're this close to getting it, because the thing is, if America falls, we all do. And I get a lot of foreign mail from people in Cuba, Venezuela, Iran, China, saying, how come the Americans don't realize what's going on? And I say, either they're starting to see it or they're never going to see it. But the UN has not hidden they want 10 nation states ruled by these 10 men, which include all the usual suspects at the top. It's always going to include Gates, the Clinton Foundation or Clinton Global Initiative, these guys, the Gustra and the International Crisis people and the UN and the WHO and the IMF and the World Economic Forum. These people honestly believe that they're better than we are. They don't see themselves as equals to humanity. They think that they are the spawn of Satan and Lucifer, and it doesn't matter if we think it's crazy. They think it's real. They've been building their headquarters in Kazakhstan while CIA op Barat pretends Kazakhstan is some backwards place. Well, if anyone looks up Kazakhstan and who's been there in the last 10 years and what they've been doing there, I would say that that's their next stop from the UN, because they're done with America. What people have to understand is they're done with America. They want America gone. What their goal is with this immigration and everything, it's all the same people, all the same money. They want no borders. Mexico, America, and Canada to be one nation state, like they already pulled off with the EU. EU is their first nation state. And honestly, their depopulation agenda is real, because the more people they can get rid of, the easier it will be to control us, which is why I think the smart city of what I believe they're trying to do in New York is all the part of the plan.
Man, that's a lot to digest. All right, well, let's talk about, well, first of all, what pops into my head is that I think it was John D. Rockefeller that donated the land in New York City upon which the United Nations sits. So again, if we follow the bloodlines, if we follow these Illuminati families, I don't think John D. Rockefeller's power was necessarily because of John D. Rockefeller. I think it might have been because of the connections to the Rothschilds.
Right.
Now, if you want to talk about Zionism, as I do, I think we need to go straight to the Rothschilds, you know, the refoundation of the State of Israel, the Balfour Declaration,
right.
And then let's talk about the spawn of Satan. Maybe these people really are the spawn of Satan, which takes us to the Canaanites. This is all very biblical.
Right, exactly. That is what they believe. I'm telling you, that is what they believe. And people can think it's crazy. It's not a conspiracy theory. They're part of their religion is that Eve didn't just bite the apple, that she actually had Cain was the spawn of Satan and Eve. And Abel was the spawn of Eve and Adam. And that they believe that what happened to Lucifer is wrong and that God was wrong. And their whole religion is that the real person to follow was Satan, Lucifer, whatever you want to say. And their whole fallacy is based on that. And when people say, that they're Jewish, I say, no, Jews, the Jewish religion is about reading the 5 books of Moses, beginning to end, every year, year after year. It never changes. That's not what they do. They still are doing ancient Egyptian rituals, and they have they have a lot of stuff from Pharaoh and their whole Moloch, sacrificing to Moloch and all of that. That is very real, and it is part of how they keep it going, and they marry within their bloodlines. And I think it's just too much for people to believe. But why? We've seen it's like a cult, but it's massively, they're the richest, most powerful people on the planet. Most Americans don't even know that the Fed is a private bank owned by the City of London and the Vatican, which is owned by the Rothschild banking cabal, which is really out of the Bank of International Settlements in Switzerland, which is their base. They own every central bank. No, the Fed is private. IRS is private. It works for the Fed. And to think how many lives the IRS has destroyed in America over this fraudulent system of debt slavery, that the American people need to know that every dollar we've paid since the Act of 1871, that they established this faux corporation of the United States along with the Fed in 1912-13, is that every dollar we pay in taxes just goes to paying interest on a loan that the Rothschilds gave us after the Civil War. So, and then anyone that's been in the government since is in on it because they know. It's insane. And when I started digging into it and I saw what's really going on, and don't forget, I know, most people don't know the scope of Epstein Island and what was going on there, or what went on at the Black Forest, or what goes on in, Bohemian Grove, and all of this. What goes on at Skull and Bones? It's real, and people can't believe it, and it's all connected. It's part of their thing. They're not human in the terms that we are. They really believe that they are a superior race, and that they are, that they reside above us, and that look, they all play God. Nobody in the UN is elected by we the people. Bill Gates isn't an elected official, but look at how much power he has over everything. And he's involved. He's a Rockefeller. They're all intertwined. And the worst part is that, after all these years, we have homelessness, we have famine. They go in, the same people always. It's always like a Soros, somebody from the Clinton Global Initiative, Bill Gates, their whole group of friends, like they did in the islands, Branson, like they're the good club. There was an article in 2008 about the good club, Oprah, Bloomberg. Well, what they do is they go into nations, they, under the guise of humanitarian aid or after a disaster, oftentimes a disaster that they created, and then they remove the duly elected president or whatever through sponsoring, like Antifa and Black Lives Matter, riots and protests that aren't generic, that aren't by the people, they're by agitators. And then it's a color revolution, and then they slip in their person. And in the meantime, they take all their resources, they make them into debt slaves. They always seem to build a port. And then next thing you know, it's a giant child trafficking hub, human trafficking hub, and they're all in on it. And that's what they just did in America in the last year and a half.
Yeah. Now, you know what's going to happen because you criticize the Rothschilds in central banking. You've just committed an act of anti-Semitism. You're aware of that, right?
Yes, that's my thing. That's what I do. Yeah, right. I love the Torah. I love the 5 books of Moses. I love the Jewish religion. It has nothing to do with that. I've been saying for years, this is not okay that Soros and Bloomberg and the Rothschild banking cabal and Linda Rothschild and all these people that have done all this stuff get a free pass because they happen to be claiming that they're Jewish. There's a whole backstory to that, and the Khazarians. It goes very far back. But the truth of the matter is they created anti-Semitism to shield themselves from the evil that these people commit. What they do to humanity is awful and sickening. And instead of and it's the media more than anyone else. And then the ADL is a total farce, ACLU farce. They're all in on it. So what they do is they say, if anyone says anything about any of these prominent banker, not really Jews, then they're anti-Semitic. Well, no, I'm judging them on their actions. As a Jew, what a Jew does, I'm not looking at the Jew thinking, well, they're Jews, so it's okay. No, I'm saying that person's evil, and they put the whole world under debt slavery while they're sitting on $23 quadrillion, while there's poverty and famine and all this stuff. They have this giant UN that pretends to be helping everyone when all it's doing is undermining everywhere it goes. They want to undermine it here. People aren't getting that defund the police is about Obama telling us flat out he wanted citizen soldiers out of his, Weather Underground spawned, community organizations, and he wants the UN to police America. And that is the point. People need to stop thinking that there's not good and evil. That's the biggest problem to me right now. And no, it's not anti-Semitic to call George Soros exactly what he is. All you have to do is look at what he's done all over the world. The amount of evil and destruction and death. And then with the Rothschild banking cabal, they've funded both sides of every single war, basically, just for their own gain. And you said you wanted to talk about Israel and the Balfour Declaration. I love Israel. I've been there several times. It's amazing. I think every human being should be able to go to Israel because, as you know, Trump got no credit and couldn't talk about the Abrahamic Accords. And too many people don't know the truth of history of the Bible, and what it's about is that Jews, Christians, and Muslims are actually cousins. If we did it in modern times, it wouldn't be that big of a deal. So he had a baby with him, and that was Ishmael, and then he had a baby with Sarah. And anyway, at the end of the day, we're all descendants of Abraham, and we should never have been divided. This was orchestrated. All the wars in the Middle East were orchestrated. That never should have happened. And it was orchestrated by these same people. And it's hard to believe, but it's anything but, it's anti-Semitic to call a Jew that calls them out a Zionist, because I don't even know what a Zionist is. I really don't. I really have no idea. And, that's the biggest attacks I get on my channel and stuff. And I'm not even talking about it. But for sure, I'm calling a spade a spade. It doesn't matter if you're black, white, Jewish, Christian, Muslim. If you commit crimes against humanity and you are evil and have a cold heart and you don't care about your neighbors and their well-being and their right and freedom and all that, then you're a bad person in my book. I don't care what you are. And we got so far away from that. And, the whole thing that happened really is more a matter of just divide and conquer. But, anyone that's still using that, calling somebody out is Islamophobic or anti-Semitic when they're doing really awful things, is just playing along in the game. Either they're in on it or they're ignorant.
Yeah, well, I know how intelligent you are, okay? Trust me. So I know you know what Zionism is. So just so your critics don't eat you alive here, let's talk just very briefly about Rothschild Zionism. Because
Right.
the Rothschilds hijacked the Jewish religion,
Right. Exactly.
the Balfour Declaration with the re-implementation of the State of Israel.
Right.
So Zionism is ... You don't have to be a Jew to be a Zionist. You know who said that very famously? Joe Biden. Joe Biden, long before becoming president, said you don't have to be a Jew to be a Zionist. You know what you have to be, Mel? You have to be a Rothschild supporter. You have to be bought and paid for by the Rothschilds. That's my view.
I agree 100%.
I used to say early on when I was a kid, I'd say when I was a young senator, I'd say if I were a Jew, I'd be a Zionist. I am a Zionist. You don't have to be a Jew to be a Zionist.
What they want is this, first of all, the Balfour Declaration was to ensure that there would be forever war in the Middle East, forever war. Let me tell you, there were a lot of people, including my hero, Hannah Arendt, but Einstein, Freud, a lot of famous Jews came out and said, do not do this. Do not make it a Jewish state. They were very against this. It's supposed to be a place where people could go to, reconnect with their roots from all religions, all of that. No, this was not going to happen. The Rothschilds feel like they own Israel, okay? And they're not even, they hijacked the Jewish religion. But so to me, what it's about is they want to dominate the planet from there, which isn't going to happen because their plans have already been thwarted as far as I know. But it's really sad because the people of Israel really are very good people. Most of them have no idea either. Trust me, I'm telling you that that Israel was hijacked as well. And just like in our country, the CIA has never worked for we the people. They've always worked for the one world government. And in Israel, there's two factions there. There are the good people who want Israel to be open and peaceful. Don't forget, within Israel, Jews, Christians, and Arabs all live together in peace. It's only outside of Israel that you don't see it. You never hear that. You never see that. The whole thing with the PLO and all that, it's all been orchestrated for this one world cabal takeover. And I believe the Rothschilds have been thwarted by this point. I really do. I think Trump made a lot of headway with the alliance with that. But it's sad because I feel Israel still is going to pay some kind of price upcoming. And it's a shame because that's what happens is these people hijack the religion and use anti-Semitism as a weapon. So you can't even see beyond it. I saw an article this morning by some guy in I guess it was Jerusalem Post or something, and it's very left-wing. The most disturbing thing to me are the left-wing liberal Jews that, cheered in Biden and loved Obama. As I'm watching them join with Iran to wipe Jews off the earth, and yet they're like, yeah, thank God we got Biden in there. And I'm like, within 2 weeks, he's saying that Israel might not be an ally. What is going on? But yeah, it's been a real disappointment for me and my whole family to watch the liberal Jews, especially ones that had relatives that survived the Holocaust, like we have, just really not know their history and not realize it. Any Jew that's for this taking of our guns has no idea what happened in Germany or Poland or Hungary or anywhere during the 30s. And people should also be aware, they were coming for the Jews first. They had a whole list, just like now. It's not about, people cannot accept that there might be a depopulation agenda. They don't hide it, and they didn't hide it then. So again, you guys got purged in October, Let me tell you something. It was a real, me and my friends that like love you guys. It was devastating. We're like, where's our real news now? It wasn't just like it sucked for you guys, but it really sucked for people that were following it and feeling inspired and had hope. And then all of it was gone, and you couldn't find it, and then you had to rebuild. Thank God. But it's just been about demoralizing us and depressing us and kicking us while we're down and kicking us while we're down so that they can bring in the UN, the One World Agenda. John Kerry's out there at Davos saying how excited he is because the Great Reset's going to come a lot faster than they hoped. And the American people are still sitting here like,
yeah,
wow.
Yeah, the skull and bonesman, the walking skull, John Kerry, the one who said he's been cheerleading Klaus Schwab's Great Reset. I mean, you want to talk about a Dr. Evil character. Well, first there's Klaus Schwab, and second is John Kerry, the skull and bonesman. Yeah, he's a terrible, terrible human being, but so is Joe Biden. Hey, I wanted to ask you something before I forget.
Right.
We're going to talk about the economy and what's going on in this country. Can the republic be saved? In my view, what's going on in Texas right now is, let's just call it warfare.
I agree.
Economic warfare.
Yeah.
We can talk about weather manipulation, maybe, but energy warfare, absolutely. We're going to circle back to that. But before I forget, I don't know very much about Trump's accomplishments with the Abrahamic Accords. Can you flush that out for people?
Sure. So what happened was behind the scenes, he got together a bunch of younger, and I'm talking next generation. This first happened, he had to get rid of Al-Wahid, the guy who was like, the worst, the prince that was all in cahoots with the Clinton Foundation and with Haiti and all of that, and was involved in what happened in Vegas. So they brought in the younger prince in Saudi Arabia. So that was like the first step. Then what happened was a coalition, which included Jared Kushner and other people, started reaching out to younger generations of leaders in the Middle East. So what they were doing is they were going into Egypt and Lebanon and Syria and Jordan and the UAE and Dubai. And they were basically saying, if we all just get behind each other and realize we're all fighting the same enemy at the end of the day, it's still, whether they're Muslim Brotherhood or they're the Li family from China, they're all still that bloodline group. If they all just got together and decided that they were going to end terrorism, get rid of the central bank, which that's part of the reason we went into Iraq anyway, but that's a whole nother show, and basically made the exchange that will help you with infrastructure. Every one of those countries could be thriving with tourism. I mean, it's so beautiful, the Middle East, Jordan, Egypt, Israel. These are beautiful, beautiful lands. A lot of them. We should be able to visit Iran. There's so much history all over there for every religion, all over the Middle East, every religion, everyone that wants to, everyone that loves God or the Bible or the Torah or whatever should be able to go visit these sites. They're real. And that should be the opening. So what my understanding is, it became a logical, the best way to lift everyone up is to get rid of our joint shared enemy, which also included the international child trafficking, drug trafficking, organ trafficking, the elite cabal. They got rid of oil, and that became their biggest billionaire commodity. But so I think that they presented them with a plan that I think this also happened in North Korea, where it was about, we'll help you with your infrastructure, we'll help you with building up hotels and communities and all of that. We'll help you with agriculture and farming and all that. And in exchange, you'll help us eradicate the evil that's within your borders and get this world full of terror done. It's 2020. We don't need to be fighting over stuff that's like obsolete 1,000 years ago. It just makes no sense. So I believe that it was an economic and a future choice. And a lot of these people were educated outside of their countries, especially Jordan and Egypt and Lebanon. And they just are at a point like we are, where it's like, what is terrorism about? And why is it allowed to flourish? And why are we paying for it? And these countries feel the same way. So I believe that it was a different kind of approach. It's not about ideology. It's about improving your own economic and your own economic situation in each of these countries. But it's also about prosperity and future. And there's no reason that all of these countries can't be thriving like Israel. They should be. And the only reason they're not is because they've gotten so bogged down by one war after another war after another war. And they all know we're all fighting the same evil. I am telling you, everything that's going on in the world that's nefarious and against humanity and for their one world government are the same people. And once you sit down and you show the evidence, which I believe they did, and you show them what's going on, and you show them that their elections were also stolen, and that, George Soros went into their country too and opened 70 NGOs with God knows who and staffs them full of people to undermine their democracy for real, and that the Clinton Global Initiative and the Clinton Foundation, they come in, and next thing you know, all the resources are gone. They have built a port and they've built a hotel with all this money, and then suddenly it becomes a giant trafficking hub. It doesn't take a genius to put it together. Every one of these countries, what's going on now in Myanmar, in Belarus, in Somalia, in Haiti, right now is about cheating in their elections, and that it was stolen by foreign powers. It's the same foreign powers that did it to us.
Yeah, I'm so glad you mentioned Myanmar. I have that written down here. Wanted to talk to you about it because I want to hear what you think is going on. Now, we know all about color revolutions, George Soros. I think really that's what happened here in our country with Antifa and BLM to a large degree.
Yeah.
John Perkins' Confessions of an Economic Hitman,
I love that book.
A decade ago, told us what the CIA does to take over these third world nations, these banana republics, and now we find ourselves essentially living in a banana republic. Before we talk about what's happening in this country, because they implanted Sleepy Joe, what's your view on what's going on in Myanmar? We wanted that to happen here, frankly. We thought the military might step in and save us from Biden, but that didn't happen.
I know, but I think we're watching a mirror. Because here's what happened there. Now, there was a time when the Myanmar military was bad, but we have bad seeds in our military too. Every military does. The military-industrial complex is alive and well in every country, but there are also good people in white hats. And I believe that the alliance, the bigger picture alliance that has been fighting the international cabal since Trump and all of them met the G7 several years ago, I think they're behind what's going on really in Myanmar, because what happened there that I deciphered is that George Soros and the Clintons went in there when Hillary was Secretary of State under Obama, and they Soros and Clinton Global, they pumped a lot of money into there, and so did the Obama administration under their slush fund money laundering U.S. aid. People need to look into that because it's a slush fund beyond comprehension of our taxpayer dollars. But anyway, so they went in there and they did their usual thing. They started NGOs under the guise of democracy or protecting democracy or open society, whatever. One of those things that sounds like it's a good thing, but then when you dig in, it's not. They the Clintons brought in all their usual friends, just like they did in the Caribbean and Hawaii, and they control all the infrastructure, all the telecom, all the internet, all the electricity. They build a port and all of that. And then they have a revolution, or they attack like they did here, Trump, to the extreme, or make up stuff, or just become their media and everything. They hijack it all. They get the person that's legitimately chosen by the people of that country out. And they put in, like, this woman was their choice. So then they put in that woman. And then what happened here, I believe, is that they set them up with the election, because guess who, because Snopes and all those demons, they say that this isn't true, but it's Lord Moloch Brown from Smartmatic who's behind their election too. And they cheated. And then they're saying that they have 8 million questionable ballots, and out of 60 million. And we have 30 to 40 million questionable ballots out of 190 million or whatever. It's the same exact thing. And I'll tell you right now, they're trying to do it in Haiti, and the Haitian government caught them. They're trying to do it in Somalia. The Somalian government caught them. They're trying to do it in Belarus. They caught them. And guess what? This is all since it happened here. So to me, I think we should be paying attention to it. And of course, all the news is lying. It's not a military overthrow. That's my fear for America right now, is that I have a lot of faith that there is a military faction behind the scenes that is running things and is waiting this out. I wish that they would get on it, but it's God's role. It's God's timing. It's not up to us. But I do believe that there are the good guys in the alliance and the military and FEMA and other that are really in control here, God willing. I do believe that. And I think that they're going to do the same thing here. Instead of it being that there was a stolen election by foreign interference, which is what happened in Myanmar, it's going to be, and then our media turns it around and says that there's a military coup and that the military and the UN condemns them and Joe Biden condemns them. No, they fully know that what they're doing. They don't want to lose control of Myanmar. They put in so much money. And the worst part is the highest child sex trafficking hub on the planet happens to be Myanmar.
Is that right? I did not know that.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I'm well versed on what went on in Haiti with Laura Silsby at the border, trafficking 33 children out of Haiti and getting caught. And of course, who comes to her rescue?
Right.
The Clintons.
Yes. 33 we know about. Okay. 33 we know about.
Yeah, she just got
a
caught.
lot more children that disappeared from Haiti. But yeah, no, after I was doing all the thing, I said, you know what? Because after I figured out that it was all the same people with the color revolution, and they were all involved together in that transition integrity project and the Council of Foreign Relations and all these people. They don't want to let go anywhere that they have these central banks. But if you look now, 2 days ago, what happened? The head of the central bank in Myanmar got arrested. So, they're not talking about it, but it just puts my theory that this is way bigger than that this is a mirror. Because first they got her out, who was Soros. Hillary wrote a glowing thing about this woman and that they put in there. I can't say her name, so I'm not going to try, but people have seen her. And she was this and that. Soros gave her awards. Soros says they're such good friends. Obama put a lot of our taxpayer money into that country. And you know what happened? It got poorer. It got more desperate. They have concentration camps there of Muslims as well. And it is, if you look it up on Pompeo's last human trafficking report from last year, it is the worst of the worst for child trafficking, Myanmar, and which used to be Burma, and it was all part of it. But they feel like they own it there, but they got caught. I think they got caught in Haiti. I think they got caught in Somalia, and it's all the same people.
Boy, I could talk to you forever, and maybe we'll go, 2 hours on this thing, and I'll make it a two-parter because I've so much to talk to you about. You've mentioned child trafficking now several times. That's part of my wheelhouse. I was going after these people on YouTube and making great gains long before YouTube became as tyrannical as it is now. They really let me put those videos out there to my surprise for a very long time. And then they started coming after them and ultimately terminated the entire channel. So I do want to talk about what's happening here in this country, in Texas specifically, and then as you see it, how the economy will go, because I do think the Federal Reserve, central banking, and the future of our country are intertwined.
Absolutely.
They cannot be separated. The only way to
100%.
save the country is to separate them. But since you mentioned child trafficking here several times, isn't it interesting to listen to the mainstream media and those that they disparage and topics that they try to assassinate? People they character assassinate, topics they try to silence. That's how you know where the truth is, folks. Let me give you a couple examples. You can't question the vaccine or vaccine safety as it pertains to Pfizer, Moderna, AstraZeneca, and the COVID vaccine, right? You can't question it. COVID vaccine deaths, they don't exist. How about this? Election fraud. If you think that the election was stolen from Donald Trump, you are a domestic terror threat, and this cannot be discussed. How about this? 9/11, World Trade Center 7, collapsing at free fall speed at 5:20 in the afternoon, and Jane Stanley reporting about the collapse of that building 20 minutes before it went down. You can't talk about that. Well, how about Pizzagate?
Right.
Which I have then, since then, Mel, I've pretty much just called Pedogate because it's a global problem. It's not just DC-centric with a pizza owner, okay? And then we saw what the mainstream media tried to do to disparage that whole thing. It's far, far, far bigger, but we were over the target regarding James Alefantis and what was going on in Washington, D.C. Why else would he have been named by GQ magazine as the 49th most powerful man in Washington, D.C. as a pizza shop owner? If that's what he was, Mel.
Well, he's a Rothschild, first of all. That's not his last name. His last name actually means love children. Two, the evidence that we all saw before it got scrubbed from the internet is so horrific of his own Instagram, of Rachel Chandler, whoever and wherever she is, own Instagram. They bragged about it. We know, I know people that actually went to spirit cooking events. I know exactly what it is. And I know that the people that go do too. And on top of that, finally, and I'm telling you, there's just little things you have to like see to know that something is going on, besides that they're digging up DC right now and nobody seems to be talking about it. But the other thing is that a guy was just arrested a few days ago. Doesn't matter which party, the whole party thing is bogus. Anyone in DC pretty much is a criminal, as far as I'm concerned, at the highest level. But anyway, so he was arrested for being part of a child trafficking sex ring in DC. And you think he's not talking? You know, when does a bird sing? When they get arrested, you know? And I also happen to know that Harvey Weinstein has really spilled the beans, because it wasn't just there. And the whole Pizzagate, they made fun of it, I have to say. And I'm horrified, because I used to work on SNL, and I was, you know, it was an honor at the time, but they made fun of Pizzagate last week on their show like it was a joke. And they keep doing this. You know, Hillary would make fun of it, and Chelsea, and they all know it's true. They do. And, you know, people did tell me that they've been digging up underneath that place. And then, of course, they send in like a lone wolf again that just happens to shoot into it and hit the hard drive of Comet Pizza.
Right.
Like as if, you know, that was some QAnon nut that had sharpshooter skills to hit right in their hard drive. So it blew up. You know?
Well, you know, that's interesting you'd say that. I've played that clip of James Alefantis giving the, you know, local media a tour and then opening that closet and saying, and there's our server, and there's where the bullet hit. I mean, you can't make this up. That's better than the JFK shot in terms of luck. So I don't know if you remember a guy on YouTube named Titus Frost, but he had a whistleblower get a hold of him and pretty much swear in the Bible that this whistleblower had infiltrated or hacked into the Comet Ping Pong server, which was connected to a server also to a similar pizza joint, I think in Germany. I'm going off memory here.
Right.
And they found child porn.
Right.
And because, you know, you can't show that stuff, you can't talk about it. All you can do is go to the FBI and say, here's what we found, please look into it. Nothing ever came of it.
Well,
Shocker,
yeah, they're
right?
in on it.
Yeah.
Because they're in on it, because they know. Yeah, I mean, this is the hardest part. It's going to be the hardest part for everyone. And this is why I really still believe that the white hats are in control, because we're sitting on a tremendous amount of evidence. And the problem is that our FBI and our DOJ and Department of Defense, that we have so many traitors, but the worst part is that so many of them are involved, and they're involved to a very large point. I know a lot of people out there like think that it's nuts when I say it, but I have pretty good information that Jeffrey Epstein is still alive, and that he gave them everything, including what's going on underneath DC, what's going on underneath Los Angeles, Las Vegas. You know, these are, you know, whether he's alive or not, they have so much evidence on these people, which is why I have to believe that we are watching a movie. That I unfortunately got sent some stuff from Hunter Biden's laptop that if that guy is a free man, it's absolutely impossible that he's a free human. There's no way. And if he is, something is very, very wrong, because it's Pizzagate times 10 on that laptop. And again, we haven't seen Wiener's laptop. We haven't seen any of the evidence about what really happened on Epstein Island, which is satanic rituals, satanic ritual weekends, and all of that. We haven't seen you know, really any evidence on what they got when they went in and they raided the whole Rothschild Black Forest and all of that, you know. And it's time for people to realize. I had on a real satanic ritual abuse survivor the other night who was sold into a Illuminati family as a baby. Her stories are horrific, and there's millions of them. And, you know, and then you remember the media all spun it with the McMartin case and with Finders and all of this. And the media's in on it. They're in on it if they don't want to report it. Then they're not the media. Then they're not journalists. It should be the biggest story every, you know. And then, yeah, like the Abrahamic Accords are such a gift. It's a God's work. What Trump has done for child trafficking and all these orders, the media won't talk about it. Mm-hmm. And I did a show last week. I wanted to go through all the tremendous success that Trump, because he did know everything, and he did go to the police about Epstein, and he was involved in taking them down, that he went and he made all these executive orders from Jeff Sessions, the second one about the property of anyone violating the human rights of children and trafficking, on and on and on. And if you Google it, which I don't Google anymore, but if you do, it's going to go Snopes, PolitiFact, Media Matters, Washington Post, New York Times, debunked that Trump's done anything to help human trafficking. They say it's just not true. It's gotten worse under him. No, we saw arrests week after week after week, Operation this and then Operation that. And I think a lot of progress has been done. But again, I think that they're also part of, if you look at where there's unrest, Myanmar, Haiti, Somalia, it's also connected to places where Trump shut down the ports. Remember that one post that was like, shut down, shut down, shut down. Those were the biggest child trafficking ports, including Long Beach, which Bill Clinton sold to China and Trump took back. But, you know, at this point, I think that the child trafficking and the satanic ritual abuse on the elite level, I think like cat's out of the bag for that. I think we're just waiting for that to come. But again, the biggest reason they want Trump gone is to hide their own crimes. They know Joe Biden will squash the investigations, but I don't believe he'll be able to. So, you know, but then you look and you say, where is Durham? Where is he? I know enough that I could just tell, you know, where is, I see Huber is retiring. It comes out in the paper the other day. And I'm thinking, well, is he retiring because he's done the Clinton Global Initiative investigation, or did he never do it? Or where is that evidence? Where is Epstein's evidence? They have so many people on tape, I'm told, from people that I believe are telling the truth. Even Wiener's laptop, where's that evidence? So we're at a point where, okay, how much closer can we slide to them giving up our sovereignty to this one world government when we know they're criminals? That's why this has to be a movie. These people, the crimes, we haven't even gotten into like the other crimes like Uranium One and Benghazi and all that. There needs to be justice. And I feel like we're really past the precipice of where justice needs to happen, because as you know, we the people are supposed to be running this country. Well, our government turned on we the people. They don't care what we have to say. Executive orders and taking our guns and stealing our rights and shutting us down and now they want to have a white nationalist, Swalwell, who had an affair for 3 years with a Chinese spy, is saying that they want a white nationalist task force in the Department of Justice. Well, what is a white nationalist? A white person who loves America? Is that where we're going? Yeah, because we're the defense, I guess, between what they want. They think, honestly, and it's so insulting because they think the American people are stupid. And I keep saying, no, the American people might be ignorant or not gotten the right history, but American people aren't stupid. You know, at this point, it's starting to become very obvious. But again, it's the information, it's the censorship and the propaganda. You know, he turned it against us, Obama, with the Smith-Mundt Act, when he tweaked it in 2012 to say, well, you can use propaganda on the American people if it's necessary. And that's what happened.
Yeah, and I've mentioned that many times as it relates to a lot of these false flags that we see.
Yeah.
How many of those are orchestrated by design to be exactly what we've called them, false flags,
right,
but they are presented to the American people as reality because it's propaganda, which Obama said that's perfectly lawful. So you get
right,
the deep state working with the media to perpetrate false flags and say, this is reality, now we get to come after your guns.
right.
So let me ask you this. First of all, I agree with you. And I think one of the reasons they hate Trump so much is because he was dismantling or revealing their rat lines in the
right,
child sex trafficking. What would explain why they hate this man so much, other than the fact that he actually stood for our country and he put America first? And now they want to turn the apparatus around on white folks who like their country. Guess what? I call BS on that, because what they're missing is that millions of people in this country of different colors and ethnicities wanted Donald J. Trump to get 4 more years. And if he had, I would agree with you, the white hats are in control. The patriots are in control. However, let's talk about where we stand right now with this country. To the extent that we're watching a movie, I agree, it's a horror movie.
Right, I
We're
agree.
all watching with our jaws agape, wondering how this could have happened, how they could steal the election, claim they didn't, then have Time Magazine brag about it. And here we have a guy who's he's openly coming after the guns. He is dismantling our energy. Goodbye, XL pipeline.
Right.
And I think what's going on in Texas is targeted warfare.
Me
You've
too.
been following this story?
Oh, yeah. I not just do I think that it's targeted warfare, I think that we are not aware how much China has bought up our grid, and how a lot of these wind farms and this green the whole Green New Deal, the whole climate change, all of that is really and was orchestrated by China. And a lot of people don't know that they have infiltrated the United Nations. So every committee at the United Nations pretty much that controls things like our grid, electricity, intellectual property, any of that, the committees, the UN's got to go. It's like the source of all evil in my mind. But all these committees, the top guy on those committees are Chinese nationals that are CCP members, which means the UN, they shouldn't be in the UN because their loyalty is always going to be first to the CCP of China. So them being there is a total farce. And what happened was, and don't forget, Hunter Biden, Joe Biden, and James Biden and Obama are very involved in it, but they sold a lot of our electricity to the Chinese. Also, the Chinese make those wind turbines that froze. And then that Jen Psaki, who used to work for Brennan, has the guts to come out and say, no, it's not the wind turbines and the solar panels that failed. It's natural gas and oil. And I'm thinking, nobody believes that. But she's out there saying it. And I'm thinking, but really, it's that it never worked. We saw it with Obama, with his whole Solyndra. And then, when Trump came in, he had to recoup with Rick Perry. He had to recoup all this money that was just slush funds and money laundering for all of these wind turbines and these you remember Trump used to make jokes like, oh, Melania, the wind's not working, we can't watch TV. But that's exactly what just happened in Texas. And and the solar energy, it's only good in perfect conditions. It doesn't make any sense, and yet it's really all these parts, all these wind turbines and everything are built in China. And China's very involved in what's happening. But you know what they told us? I'll tell you what, the World Economic Forum, I told everyone to look at it about 2 months ago. I sent an email to somebody who's in our community who's really good. And I said, you got to check this out. There's some polygon tabletop exercise at the World Economic Forum that sounds very similar to Event 201. Mm-hmm. And then I kept thinking, they're going to hit our grid. They're going to hit our grid. And I believe they just did. And people don't have to believe that HARP can manipulate stuff, and that China does, when they said that about that Marjorie Taylor Greene, that Jews said that they have lasers from the sky. What she's really saying is the Rothschilds own a patent that includes, energy weapons that are very real. But the point is that what's happening in Texas is manipulated to some extent, if not overtly, covertly. And the fact that George Soros, Bill Gates, and the CCP basically own our entire grid at this point, and some nefarious characters, Gustra and some other people out there with the Uranium One people, and that should be very troubling. Plus, he ended the Keystone Pipeline, but is promoting the Taliban and other countries, and Burisma. He's promoting natural gas there, just not here. Doesn't make any sense.
Right. It makes sense in terms of an Agenda 2030 strategy, which we can talk about. But the other thing is that in terms of weather weapons, I will, if I can find the clip, guys, maybe I'll splice it in here. Otherwise, you guys can look for it. But I remember a clip of Lord Rothschild, bragging about or talking about in the derivatives markets, betting on the weather. Right. So they have weather bets, so these people can enrich themselves while carrying out genocide.
Right.
And so whether or not this unprecedented weather event that we're seeing in Texas was orchestrated via weather weapons or just dumb luck, I agree with you. This is all part of a UN Agenda 2030 policy to what? Destroy our energy, our current forms of energy, and get us on the plantation. Well, what is the plantation, guys? The UN talks about lifting the third world out of poverty. No. They want to make us all equal, thereby destroying our first world living standards and reducing us all to the status of serfs. When we're all poor, we're all equal.
Exactly. And that's the same thing that Bill Gates did when he, started giving out laptops and being like he was such a hero. Well, what came with giving out laptops to public schools was that they had to change to Common Core. Well, what's Common Core? It teaches our children not to think. It teaches them to memorize and repeat. And now so many schools in this country, that's all they're doing. Then they brought in all the justice warriors, and they have dumbed down our children so much that we have 2 generations basically right now of college graduates that never learned anything. And or 1 generation of college graduates, 1 generation about to go to that next level. And Bill Gates was behind that too. You know why? Because it's not okay to be an achiever. In New York City, there are no more gifted programs. There's no more tests to get into the best schools. Then all of that's gone. It's all by lottery. Well, the best kids that are most talented should be in the best classes with the best teachers to help them, or they're going to be bored and they're going to go the wrong direction. And that's exactly what these people want. They want to control. That's also what happened in Ivy League schools. I don't have kids, but I would be very remiss to send a child to college now. Why? What's the point? Go find something you love and become great at it, is my opinion, because they're indoctrinating. And it's the same thing with what they did over COVID, because guess what? They took a little bit in those first 15 days, and then they took a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more until our entire Bill of Rights was hijacked because of what I believe to have been a pandemic bioweapon that was really about that they could not let Trump do another term. Don't forget, it was Agenda 21. So if Hillary Clinton won, they would have gotten there by 21. Became Agenda 30 because Trump got involved and sidetracked them. And, from the very beginning, like this Raskin that was like on the floor somehow talking about the faux impeachment that wasn't even in front of a judge, just was a show. But him too, he said impeach Trump the day Trump won the election in 2016. All these people, George Soros said Trump won't make it past 2020. It was because Trump got in the way, which is why the military chose him. But Trump got in the way of their Agenda 21. And now Agenda 2030, which is why they had to steal the election. And they did. And I don't think they're going to get away with it, because I think the rest of the world knows. That's my thing right now. I'm watching what Putin's saying, what Modi's saying, what even Abe. I'm of the thinking that Xi is playing both sides. I think this is much bigger than people think. And I really think that they all know that the central bankers are the ultimate enemy of humanity on every level, and they all are in on it. That's the only thing I can imagine is really going on behind the scenes. I know it was devastating for millions of people to not only watch them steal the election, but then, bastardize the whole thing on January the 6th, because I know a lot of people who were there. I'm sure you do too. That was set up. The Capitol Police let people in. They were around the corner changing into MAGA gear and giving out guns. John Sullivan was in on it. You find out today CNN and MSNBC paid that guy $35,000, and he had a CNN reporter embedded with him. And again, they got the laptops. So Pelosi, Schumer, and them knew. But it's devastating to watch, I guess. I still have faith. I do. I cannot believe there are too many veterans and too many good military guys out there, and good guys. I think there's a lot, like it always said on the board, there's a lot more good people than bad people. It's just the bad people have all the money. And like you said about the war weapons, do you think that if you're sitting on $23 quadrillion, you own the stock exchange, basically you completely own all the money of the world, you're storing your gold at the Vatican, all of that, you think they're not building satellites? Of course they are. You think they're not finding ways to keep hurting humanity? I mean, Bill Gates wanted to throw up some kind of thing to block the sun with particles. I mean, it's just so crazy. They're nuts. They're out of control. Plus, a lot of them are spawn of the real Nazis, including Mengele and the guy from NASA, a Nazi who came over that they rescued. And look, they have everything. That's the problem. That's why it's been so hard. I think a lot of it's about what else they have to use against us.
Mm-hmm. Were you talking about Werner von Braun?
Yeah.
And take a look at his. Yeah, take a look at Werner von Braun's tombstone, guys, and you might want to just read that biblical passage. He put it on his tombstone. I didn't, so just
about the ferment.
Yeah. So let me ask you this, because it is so disturbing and deeply, deeply, deeply disturbing. Not only to have the election stolen in broad daylight, quantifiable, absolutely 100% proven. We didn't get our day in court, so we were betrayed by every aspect of our government. Absolutely heartbreaking, but it begs the question, do we have a country at all? Why would we pay our taxes to a country that is so now absolutely in the pocket of the deep state that it does not have the rule of law, it won't enforce the rule of law? And I guess before we move on, and we can cover that, and what's going on in Texas, again, I think Texas is one of those states that will stand as a last line of defense for the people, for gun rights, against unconstitutional executive orders, laws, etc. But when Trump was in, why do you think he didn't issue an arrest warrant? Why didn't he go after George Soros? I don't understand why we didn't clean house when Trump was in.
Well, here's my thinking. I think he did go after Soros. I don't think Soros is the problem anymore. I think it's the remaining minions and maybe possibly his son. What I do think is, though, I think that he didn't pardon Julian Assange because he was threatened. I'm not sure that the Julian Assange story is even what we think it is. I think that there may be another story there that we're not getting. But I do know that, there were 400 attempts on his life, and he had both Secret Service and his private people and all that. No, I think he went after George Soros. I don't think George Soros is a free man, let alone, probably, I can't say, because I'm not one of those people who thinks like we're watching clones, but I haven't seen George Soros around in a long time, and I don't think that's an accident. And don't forget that there were other people that weren't at the other usual suspects that weren't at the inauguration nor at the impeachment, including Adam Schiff and Nadler and some other big usual suspects haven't been seen. I haven't seen George Soros in a year. So, and I look, and you see his son sometimes and stuff, but that doesn't mean that he has a lot of minions below him, and a lot of them are indoctrinated. They're full on in the cult. They're in the cult. That's the hard part about Hollywood. I spent 15 years out there. If you're in that cult, you are done. You're never coming out. Like the only way you're coming out is death. Forever you're going to live in that world because you sold your soul to the devil and you're gone. And you're going to play that role, or you're going to become a drug addict or alcoholic or suicide or whatever. But there's a lot of people in the open society and under, even if you look at that ridiculous COVID bill that came out with the $700 billion going overseas while we're in trouble in America and $600 going to we the people if you are unemployed, and that's it. And it was so confusing. I think to mention maybe that I thought was a little bit of a wake-up call. But a lot of that money, it goes to these U.S. aid and all of that, just gets laundered back through the same guys. And I think they've put a stop to that. I mean, my feeling right now is that they're in the death throes, but it is kind of scary because, like I said, they're not going down easy. They had a lot of contingent plans. If you look around or you look at Northern California and like what's underneath, like the Rothschild winery and stuff, they got a whole world underneath there. They have those tunnels and stuff all under LA. Like it's just, we don't know. And I mean, my feeling is that the FEMA and the military are continuity of government right now. I don't see how they can't be. It doesn't make any sense, because what should have happened per our Constitution is when Trump got the report from DNI Radcliffe that was purposefully late, I think. My feeling is they had to let them certify the election to commit the crime, the major crime, because we never finished the war on terror. So Trump, again, if he was such a dictator and such a tyrant, he's been a war president the entire time because we're still in the war on terror. He could have been a tyrant. He could have stopped all those riots last summer. He could have told all the governors, screw you, you have no power, we're going into martial law last summer, which some people think he should have. But at this point, what I'm hearing is that, and it's been hard to watch, you do know that I did work for the Trumps when I was a kid at Mar-a-Lago, and yeah, I know that they're good people.
I heard that in your interview with John Claude, right? Yeah.
And it's been really, really hard to watch because I'm not talking about him. I'm talking about the daughters, Melania, Ivana, who's still involved. These are very, very, very nice people and very good-hearted and good people. And I'm telling you, it's been really hard to watch, especially Melania is such a nice person. I mean, such a nice person. You can't even imagine. I don't know how they put up with it. But what should have happened is when Trump finally got that report and gave it to the Pentagon, Chris Miller and the guy that was moved from FEMA to the head of DHS, and FEMA should have taken over control. Now, there is a lot of talk that what we're seeing in terms of the military is propaganda and not really happening, and that the Pentagon has not allowed Joe Biden or any of his people to do anything involving the Pentagon. But, we don't know. And then of course, you and I know we can't trust the Supreme Court. We got John Roberts, who should have been kicked off a long time ago after that came out about Epstein and all that. And then also the two that Obama put on, these professors, these progressive liberal globalist professors, they're going to let us down no matter what. But they are going in on the 19th, and the Supreme Court has an opportunity to right this wrong, at least in those 3 states, which then would start a snowball. And I really have very little faith in them. So in my opinion, if the military and FEMA and all of that, because that's what should have happened. Once it was proven, and it was, I saw the DNI Radcliffe report. Anyone can see it online. You look at Navarro's report, it's amazing. You look at even Mike Lindell's piece. They know. The Supreme Court justices know what happened. They know. Everyone knows. Everyone overseas knows. A lot of overseas people, including like Lazaroff, who's below Putin or whatever, calls Joe Biden the fake president openly. So they know. So at this point, God willing, the Supreme Court, but then again, look at what happens none of the evidence made it to any of these judges, because I think the judges were cowards. I think that they put which is okay, but I think they put their families and their lives ahead of the Constitution and doing the right thing. But what I do know is when I was in DC and I went and I talked to some of the National Guard, more than one said to me, we're not here to protect them. We're here to protect the Constitution and the people. And if that is the case, and I saw Nancy Pelosi, after she spun it that they were there to protect them the other day, come out and demand to know why the National Guard is still in DC. And I saw what they were building, and I saw them digging into the ground, and I saw a lot of that firsthand. So what's going on right now in that case is secret, and it's on God's timing, and it will be revealed, I guess, when need be. But at the same time, good thing you're still out there, and this is why I'm out there. We, the people, do have recourse here, and people should be contacting the Supreme Court, in my opinion, peacefully, but saying, listen, you work for us. You're our last hope. If they do not do the right thing, and there is plenty of evidence, if they don't do the right thing on the 19th, or they delay it, which is a big tactic they use, then I feel like if the military doesn't come in, we are in big trouble. We don't have till 2022. We really don't.
Okay, friends, that marks the end of part 1. Stay tuned. In the next couple of days, I'll be posting part 2 of my conversation with Mel K. Thanks so much for tuning in, friends, and for real news, please visit us directly at sgtreport.com, the antidote to corporate propaganda. God bless. Bye-bye.